How's it going, everybody? Lampini here once again, here to review NFL 2024 Week 4 matchups. Now, Week 3, once again, had some crazy matchups. So, these are my predictions for the week. I had some right, I had some wrong. Some of them, like the Commanders game, I'm lucky I picked wrong, but there were some real surprises. So I was 9-7 for this week, so I did get more predictions right than I got wrong. 9-7, pretty solid record in the National Football League, which brings me up to 29-18 for my predictions. So I am still in the positive with my predictions. So let me just go ahead and keep that up and continue watching, because you're going to get good predictions if you watch. So to put it simply, so let's get things kicked off with the Thursday night game. So for the Thursday night game, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants. Both teams are 1-2. So the Giants are coming off of their first win of the season. They did pretty darn good. They beat the Browns 21-15. Daniel Jones with another pretty good game. He was 24-34 for 236 yards and 2 touchdowns, a 109.4 passer rating. Both of those touchdown passes went to Mr. Malik Nabers with 8 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. So I think Malik Nabers is finally coming into his own here as the number 1 receiver for the Giants. I know everyone was very afraid that he wasn't going to be able to be productive because Daniel Jones is quarterback, this, that, and the other thing. But he's starting to get his targets, he's starting to get his receptions, and he's starting to, it's like Marvin Harrison Jr., he's starting to get his footing. And I'm very happy for him, mainly because he's on my fantasy team, but you know. But yeah, the Giants had a pretty good win, pretty encouraging win. They're at home here Thursday night against the Dallas Cowboys, who, once again, had a disappointing showing against the Ravens. So they were down 28-7. 28-7, I believe. No, sorry, not 7. It was 28-6 going into the fourth quarter. They scored 19 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to almost come out with the victory. Very Ravens-style game, very Cowboys-style game. The Cowboys being padding their stats at the end of the game. Almost came back and won, but they fell short. And then the Ravens, once again, I'll talk about it more when I talk about the Ravens and their prediction, but like constantly just getting up to these huge leads and just letting their opponents get back into the games. It's a serious problem that the Ravens have. But anyway, Dak Prescott, I mean, these stats are pretty good, but a lot of it was in garbage time, like in the fourth quarter. He was 28-51 for 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 91.9 passer rating. So again, like it wasn't bad, but you know, like they it's just like he padded his stats. Like they scored those 19 points in the fourth quarter, almost came back and won, but they didn't. Almost doesn't get you anywhere in the National Football League. So who's going to win in this game? Part of me really wants to go for the Giants just because they're at home, it's prime time. I would love to see the Dallas Cowboys lose and fall to 1-3. But I think the Cowboys are way too talented of a team to lose to a team as bad as the Giants. So I am going to go with the Cowboys on this one. I am going to go with the Cowboys on this one. I think that they are just going to be, this is going to be a good get-right game for them. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect. Divisional round matchups like this are always going to be close because these teams play each other twice a year every year, so they're tailor-made to go against each other, right? So I think it's going to be a closer game than some people may give the Giants credit for, but I do think the Cowboys are eventually going to win this game. So next up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are 1-2, the Saints are 2-1. Now, the Saints had a bit of a fall back down to earth moment here against the Philadelphia Eagles. They were winning that game for the majority of the game. They were taking advantage of a lot of turnovers by the Eagles, a lot of fourth down turnover on downs. So there was a lot of that they had to they had to get past. Derek Carr was 14 of 25 for 142 yards, a touchdown, and interception, a 69.1 passer rating. And then Chris Olave was his top receiver, 6 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. They played all right, but they didn't score 40 points like they did in the first 2 weeks. So I think the Saints are going to be coming back down to earth a little bit, but the NFC South seems wide open right now, except for the Panthers. But even then, the Panthers did very well with Andy Dalton as their quarterback. So that division is wide open. The Falcons are going to know that. And this is a huge opportunity for the Falcons to get to 2-2 against the Saints. And the Saints are going to follow the 2-2. And it's going to give them a much better chance to take this division. I know a lot of people were saying that the Falcons were the favorites to win, and people weren't really giving the Saints much of a chance because they're such a mid team. The Saints are showing me that they're using the talent that they have. They have Alvin Kamara, they have Chris Olave, they have a solid defense. Derek Carr, I mean, it's just going to be a matter of Derek Carr can keep up the pace that he's been keeping up the previous 2 weeks. And if he can do that, then sky's the limit. But in this game, I think this is going to be a really, really good game for the Falcons. I think that they were very close to being the Chiefs in primetime. So I think that they are going to come out guns a-blazing. And I do think they're going to beat the Saints coming in at home. So I think they are going to win. And they're going to go up to 2-2. The Saints are going to fall to 2-2. And that division is wide open. So I'm going with the Falcons on that one. All right, so next up we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Chicago Bears. Both of these teams are 1-2. The Rams really avoided catastrophe going 0-3 against the 49ers. This is one of the predictions that I got wrong. I really thought San Francisco was going to win. But because the Rams are just being ravaged by injuries. The injuries are what are really hurting them. But they got Matt Stafford and they have Kyren Williams. And those guys really got the job done on offense. Matt Stafford was 16 of 25 for 221 yards and a touchdown, a 105.6 passer rating. And then Kyren Williams had 89 yards off of 24 carries for 2 touchdowns. So you can really see where all the touchdowns came from there. Kyren Williams running it in, Matt Stafford throwing. They only held the 49ers to 24 points, but even then the 49ers are struggling with some injury concerns. I know George Kittle is out, but, you know, you do what you got to do. And I think that the Rams under Sean McVay, if they had Sean McVay and if they had Matt Stafford, they are going to be contenders. They are going to win games that you might think they're not going to win. They're strongly coached and they have a great quarterback, and they're going to win some of these games. Now, as for the Bears, Caleb Williams had his first career touchdown pass in this game. He had 2 of them in a losing effort against the Colts, 21-16. I've been seeing a lot of things about the Bears' offensive line and how bad it was, and I saw a lot of it. I mean, Caleb Williams was 33 of 52 for 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 80.8 passer rating. Rome Odunze had 6 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown as well. So good for him to finally get his first 100-yard receiving game. But if you're going to get a rookie to throw the ball 52 times, he's going to throw interceptions. So I think this is going to be a very big learning year for Caleb Williams. But I do think he's going to improve as the weeks go on. He already has. The fact that he threw the ball 52 times and didn't crumble under pressure, I think is very encouraging. I think he is going to be a good quarterback in this league. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I think the one thing that I could see happening is Caleb Williams goes the way of Trevor Lawrence, where he's a generational prospect. He's this, he's that. And he goes in and he just becomes a slightly above average starting quarterback. He doesn't become the next Aaron Rodgers, the next Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but he becomes a respectable starter in this league. But that very well could change depending on what we end up seeing from them. But in this game, I do think the Rams are going to win. I think that the Bears are still a very young team, a very inexperienced team. And I think the Rams with Matthew Stafford, with Sean McVay as their head coach, they're a lot more established of a team. They won't have as many growing pains as the Bears, and I think they are going to win. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle again. He's probably going to throw another interception. But it's going to be close, but I do think the Rams are still going to win this game. So next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. So the Minnesota Vikings have been the biggest shock of this entire season. They beat the Houston Texans 34-7. Here I am saying that the Vikings are going to be exposed as pretenders against the Houston Texans, which is a team that really we thought were legit. I do still think the Houston Texans are legit, but I just think we're really underestimating the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold was 17 of 28 for 181 yards and 4 touchdowns for 119.2 passer rating. And then Aaron Jones had 19 carries for 102 yards. He also added a receiving touchdown on top of that. And then Justin Jefferson had 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. So the Minnesota Vikings are using their skill position players. They are really utilizing Aaron Jones, and it's been a very impressive show for the Minnesota Vikings. And what we're seeing with Sam Darnold is something that we really need to we need to expect more. When you throw a rookie quarterback into a bad situation on a team like the Jets, on a team like the Panthers, you're not putting him in a situation to succeed. But you give him a couple years in the league as a backup just so he can learn the ropes, learn the speed of the game, and then when you throw him back in as a starter, he's going to do better. It's like any job. You start any job, you're going to struggle your first year, but then you get better with experience. So Sam Darnold is showing us right now why he was such a high draft pick, and he's finally coming into his own now. And the scary thing is, Sam Darnold is only 27. He is younger than Joe Burrow. He is the same age as a lot of these young up-and-coming quarterbacks. Like Mahomes and Allen, he's 2 years younger. But, it is most definitely not too late for Sam Darnold to become a franchise quarterback for a team. It'd be a real shame if J.J. McCarthy doesn't get his spot and he ends up sitting. Maybe he'll get traded to a different team to start. But, as Sam Darnold keeps playing the way he's playing, then the Vikings might just stay with him. Well, they're going to stay with him the whole year anyway. But I think this should be a lesson to some of us about disregarding quarterbacks, immediately calling them busts. Like Bryce Young. Let's give him another chance on another team after he has a year or two under his belt. I think Zach Wilson is just bad, to be honest. I think that he had one good COVID year. He threw one good pass at his college pro day, and people fell for it, basically. I don't think that he is going to have much of a redemption arc, but, swings and roundabouts. Then we have the Green Bay Packers, who won once again 30-14 against the bad Tennessee Titans team. Malik Willis once again had a pretty good game. He was 13 of 19, 202 yards, a touchdown, 120.9 passer rating. He added on a rushing touchdown on top of that. The Packers have been playing decently with Jordan Love on the bench. They have two wins without him. Sorry. Yeah, they do. They have 2 wins without him because they lost week 1 against the Eagles. So they are they're doing pretty good so far. I feel like anytime established team like the Green Bay Packers has to play with a backup quarterback, it's all about getting wins when you can, right? Like, you're playing against a really good team. You're not always going to be able to do it with a backup quarterback. But when you play against a team like the Titans, you got to win that game. And Malik Willis did very well. Another example of what a good system can do for a quarterback. I don't think Malik Willis is starting potential, but he's showing you that he can get the job done with a good playbook and a good team around him. So in this game, I'm done betting against the Vikings. I do think the Vikings are going to win this game, and they're going to improve to 4-0. And the MVP campaign for Sam Darnold continues. He's the MVP frontrunner right now. I think slowly being chased down by Josh Allen, but he's doing incredible. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm finally going to pick them, and I think they're going to go over the Green Bay Packers. So next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Indianapolis Colts. So the Steelers are 3-0, and a lot of people are discrediting them. I think the Steelers beating the Chargers really showed a lot to me. They beat them 20-10, which, isn't super duper impressive, but this is how the Steelers play football. They play good defense. They don't turn the ball over. They get stops on defense when they need to. They get turnovers on defense when they need to. They move the ball on offense just enough that they don't have to punt, so they can put field goals on the board, so they can get points on the board. They score touchdowns when they need to. They are a solid, tried and true, strong, well-disciplined team. And I think that can get you places in the NFL. I don't know if it's going to get them to the Super Bowl, but I can see them winning 11 games and maybe winning a playoff game. I can see that as their ceiling right now, unless they really start to turn it on and Justin Fields really starts to come into his own, who, incidentally, was 25 of 32 for 245 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and a 96 passer rating. So we're really seeing a career renaissance with Justin Fields. And again, how good is it when you're put in a good system, you're put in a position to succeed, you're on a good, solid team, you'll thrive. So Russell Wilson very well could lose his job if the Steelers go 4-0, which, spoiler alert, I think they will do against the Colts. But Justin Fields has been playing out of his mind. He's been doing very, very well. As for the Colts, they are 1-2. They barely scraped by with a win against Chicago. Chicago scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, so the Colts almost lost it, but they stayed in it. However, Anthony Richardson had another bad game. He was 10 of 20 for 167 yards and 2 interceptions for a 39 passer rating. And then Jonathan Taylor picked up a lot of the slack, though. He had 23 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson is very, very fortunate that he has a guy like Jonathan Taylor in his backfield. Because Anthony Richardson has not been playing well these last couple games. He had 3 interceptions the week prior to this, so his touchdown to interception ratio is not good. It's not good at all. A lot of people are falling in love with what he could be, but I'm wondering if the Colts are wasting their time with him. Because, like, if Anthony Richardson doesn't get injured last year, I think a lot of these struggles are going to come to the forefront last year. But because he didn't, he's basically still a rookie this year. And he's playing like one, as you can see. And I question what the Colts are going to do if he continues playing like this. If he continues having these bad games where he only completes half of his passes, throws 2 interceptions, a 39 passer rating, I really question what the Colts are going to do. Are they going to ride him out until the end of the season to see if he gets better? Or what? I'm not sure. But tough going. But I'm going with the Steelers on this one purely because the Steelers have one of the best defenses in the league, and they're not going to fall for Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is going to have another difficult game. He's probably going to be sacked a couple times by TJ Watt. It's going to be a bitch for TJ Watt to bring him down, but he's going to have to. But yeah, I'm going with the Steelers. They're going to improve to 4-0. And I think it's time for people to start taking the Steelers seriously because what they do isn't flashy. But I think Mike Tomlin has this formula where he wins games. He has a bell cow in Najee Harris that gets him those tough yards to get those first downs. And the fact that Justin Fields can run, it's similar to Jayden Daniels where they have a strong running game. And then if Justin Fields needs to run, he's fast enough where he can get these yards, you know? And you have a threat like George Pickens where Justin Fields has the arm to get it to him. So their offense does just enough to get by, and their defense does the rest. If you have a defense that can turn the ball over, get sacks when you need to, everyone says that their football game, their game is so fluky, but it's been going on for so long that this is just Steeler football, you know? So I'm going with the Steelers on that one. So next up, we have the Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. The Broncos had both of these teams actually. Broncos are 1-2. The Jets are 2-1. Both of these teams are coming off of very, very strong wins. The Denver Broncos beat the Buccaneers 26-7, and we were over here saying that the Buccaneers might be contenders for that division, but they had a very humbling game against the Denver Broncos. And Bo Nix had his first decent game. He was 25 of 36 for 216 yards and an 85 passer rating. More importantly, though, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks as well. And that's all you need. When you're starting a rookie quarterback like Sean Payton is with Bo Nix, there's going to be growing pains, but it's these kinds of games that are really, really going to encourage you, basically, where they're just like, all right, he's not complete trash. We're seeing development game to game, and that's all you can ask for. So that's good stuff by the Broncos. As for the New York Jets, they demolished the Patriots 24-3. Must be very, very cathartic for them considering that they were beaten up by the Patriots for the past 15 years. Aaron Rodgers was 27 of 35 for 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 118.9 passer rating. All right, guys. Aaron Rodgers is back. I think that this game I think if I could describe that game, the Jets Patriots game in one word for Jets fans, I would say it's healing. They went in there, Aaron Rodgers did what he was supposed to do. He played well. He played like Aaron Rodgers. Even though he's 40 years old, he played like Aaron Rodgers. He got the ball to his skill position players. I believe Garrett Wilson caught a touchdown pass. And basically, the Jets looked how everyone has expected them to look in that game. And I think that's very, very comforting for Jets fans. And I think it gives them a lot of optimism. I think that the Jets are going to beat the Broncos purely because they're just a more talented team. If the Jets lose to the Broncos, then they're in trouble, right? Then it becomes another problem, right? They can't be losing to a team that's as bad as the Broncos. and that are in such a rebuild. So this is a game that the Jets need to win. I think they will win. I think they will improve to 3-1, and it's a race between the Jets and the Bills right now for that division. But I think the Jets are going to do enough to make the playoffs. Now that they have Aaron Rodgers, he's playing like he's supposed to. I'm going with the Jets on this one. So next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both these teams are 2-1, and both of these teams are trying to avenge pretty lackluster performances. The Eagles did win their game, right? But they did not look good. They scored all of their 15 points in the fourth quarter against the Saints. Jalen Hurts. Now, a lot of these stats that I'm going to tell you guys for the Eagles are very impressive because they did move the ball. They moved the ball incredibly well, but it was a turnover in the end zone by Jalen Hurts. It was failing to convert fourth downs. It's that aggressive play calling that Nick Sirianni is known for. When it doesn't work, it really doesn't work and they struggle. But they were resilient enough to come back and beat the Saints. Jalen Hurts was 29 of 38 for 311 yards and an interception for an 88.8 passer rating. Saquon, another incredible game by Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's making his campaign for Offensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. I think he is slowly becoming one of the front runners. Actually, a lot of running backs are when we get into it. And then Dallas Goedert had 10 receptions for 170 yards. He was targeted 11 times and had 10 receptions. So very, very good completion percentage there by Dallas Goedert, one of the premier tight ends in the league. But like I said, good stats by skill possession players. Even without A.J. Brown, even without DeMonta Smith, they found a way to move the ball and used what skill position players they still had, which is the mark of a very, very good offense. The Eagles' biggest weakness now is getting in their own way, learning to maybe take field goals, maybe not turning the ball over in the red zone, right? That's all stuff that they need to not do. As for Tampa Bay, like I said, they scored 7 points. Not much to write home about. Baker had a touchdown and an interception. It's probably his first bad game of the season. But it's at home. Like, both of these teams are trying to get a bounce back win here. Oh man, I think the Buccaneers defense has not looked very good these last couple games, especially against the Broncos. Giving up 26 points at home is not very encouraging. They are coming back home again here. This is probably one of the bigger toss-up games, I'd say. I don't see Tampa Bay doing it. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think that they have moved the ball as well as they have, and they're going to move the ball again against Tampa Bay, and I don't think the Buccaneers' offense is going to be able to keep up with them. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but I do think the Eagles are going to edge it out, and I think they're going to win this game. All right, so this one I'm very excited about. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Carolina Panthers. The Bengals are 0-3. If it wasn't time to panic then, when they were 0-2, now is the time to panic. This is, to quote Woody from Toy Story 1, this is the perfect time to panic. They're 0-3. They're going against the Carolina Panthers, who we thought were the worst team in the league. But what difference bringing in a veteran quarterback comes in? Andy Dalton was 26 of 37 for 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 123.6 passer rating. On top of that, Chuba Hubbard had 21 carries for 114 yards. And then Deontay Johnson had 8 receptions for 122 yards and a touchdown. They scored 36 points. That is a night and day difference than what Bryce Young was able to get done with the Panthers. And that is a terrible look for Bryce Young, but it is a lot more of an encouraging thing for the Panthers. Now, is Andy Dalton going to be able to keep that up? Against a team like the Raiders, the Raiders are not a great team, right? They will show up to some games like when they beat the Ravens, but then they'll lay an egg like this. They're a lot like the Commanders in that sense. But it's just like it's been very, very interesting that whole last week seeing what Andy Dalton can do with this offense, saying, oh, Bryce Young doesn't have any weapons. Well, Deontay Johnson certainly had a game. Chuba Hubbard certainly had a game. So maybe the problem is Bryce Young. I don't know, but this game is going to be very, very interesting. And the Bengals. Now, they had a great offensive game. They scored 33 points. Joe Burrow was 29 of 38 for 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, 127.5 passer rating, and Jamar Chase had 6 receptions for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Commanders-Bengals game on Monday, neither team turned the ball over and neither team punted. Every single possession ended with points, and they scored 33 points. Usually, that's enough to win. It just so happens that the Commanders scored 38 points. So it's going to be tough, though, because the Panthers scored 36 points last week. So you combine it with the Bengals defense not looking great, or maybe it's just the Commanders offense looking great. I don't know. But you combine it with the Panthers offense scoring 36 points, the Bengals giving up 38 points. I don't know. We might be right for an upset at home in Carolina, but the Bengals need to win this game. Like, the Bengals have had expectations ever since they made the Super Bowl and the conference championship in those back-to-back years. And they were a disappointment last year, but, they're injured, this and that. They've really got to get it together now. Or else their reputation of being Super Bowl contenders is going to go away very quickly. And their Super Bowl window was just those 2 years, right? So it's going to be very interesting, but I think the Bengals are going to win. I think that, this is emergency mode. Joe Burrow is going to say to them, listen, guys, we fell to 0-3. We cannot fall to 0-4. And we cannot fall to a team like the Panthers, which in theory is the laughing stock of the league. They may not be anymore now that they've seen what the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, can do. And Andy Dalton going against his old team that he started for so very long. But, they need to get it together. This is a must-win for them, or else their season is over. Coming out of a 4-game hole is going to be next to impossible, especially when you have the Steelers and Ravens in your division. And the AFC is just so competitive because you think about it. Who is going to fight for a wild card spot? It's either going to be the Bills or the Jets. It's either going to be the Steelers or the Ravens. And then you got the Chiefs, you got the Chargers, you got the Texans and that whole division. Maybe the Colts make a run. Maybe they might. The Bengals are vying for a 7 seed right now, but it has to start with winning this game. And I think they will ultimately do it. So next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Both these teams are coming off of really, really bad shellackings. The Jaguars laid an egg on prime time, giving up 47 points against the Bills. The Jaguars are 0-3. That second half of the 2022 seasons where Trevor Lawrence went off and they won a playoff game, I don't know where that is now. I think Doug Peterson is on the hot seat because something is going on in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence was 21 of 38 for 178 yards, a touchdown, and an interception for a 67.5 passer rating. Another lackluster game by Trevor Lawrence. They paid him that long-term deal. They gave him all that money, and he is still playing like a mid-starting quarterback. He is not playing like the generational talent that we thought he was, and he is in year 4. And fair enough, when he had Urban Meyer as his head coach, he made great strides in 2022. He had a very average season in 2023. I think we might just have to come to the conclusion that Trevor Lawrence is who we thought he was, because everything has been tailor-made in Jacksonville for Trevor Lawrence to succeed, and he's just played okay. So whether he makes a step forward going into the rest of the year, but they were 0-3, and they're going against division rival Houston Texans at home, coming off a bad loss. They are really, really, really going to look to try and bounce back from. C.J. Stroud was 20 of 31 for 215 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions for a 68.6 passer rating. Stephon Diggs finally got some receptions, 10 receptions, 94 yards. They're off at, you only score 7 points against the Vikings, so, neither team looked good. But I think with what we've seen from the Texans in weeks 1 and 2, I think they are more of a legitimate team. I understand that it's a divisional matchup and upsets are more likely to happen in divisional matchups, but I think the Texans are too good to lose a game like this, and I do think that the Jacksonville Jaguars are just not that very good of a team. I don't know if they're not well coached. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence just isn't that good. I don't know what it is, but they have been very, very disappointing this year. Probably one of the most disappointing teams in the league. I'm going to the Houston Texans. I think they're going to win. All right, so now we begin with the 4 o'clock slate of games. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chiefs are coming off yet another nail-biting victory and the Chargers are coming off a disappointing loss against the Steelers, as previously mentioned. Patrick Mahomes, again, with a pretty average game, 26 of 39, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, an 87.2 passer rating. And then Rashee Rice with another great game, 12 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. We have not seen Travis Kelce too much this season. I don't know what's going on. I think he's just being double covered. But the Chiefs are not really, despite being 3-0, have not really looked that much like themselves recently. Mahomes has thrown an interception in every single game this regular season, which is not very good. This could be his second subpar game in a row, maybe. But, he wins games. He 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. He managed to beat the Falcons in that last game-winning drive. Say what you want about the PI call. I just think, them saying the refs bail out the Chiefs, I'm just over it. The people who say the NFL is fixed, I could go on a whole other tangent about that. It's not fixed, guys. I don't know why people want to think it, but if the NFL is fixed, then is basketball, baseball, and hockey fixed? Is that fixed? It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, the Chargers are coming off a very disappointing loss against the Steelers. They were 2-0, but the 2 wins were against 2 very bad teams. So yes, it's a divisional matchup, so maybe they have a chance to upset the Chiefs at home. But I don't think Mahomes is going to lose out to the Chargers, even though the Chargers really need to win this game. Jim Harbaugh has been doing a pretty decent job with them. The Chargers, it looks to me, are vying for a wild card spot. They need to stay above 500 as much as they can because they have to contend with, like I said, the Bills, Jets, Steelers, and Ravens. I would say that out of those 4 teams, 2 of them are going to get those 2 wild card spots with just how the Steelers have been playing. I think the Ravens are going to turn it around with how the Bills and Jets have both been playing. They've both been playing incredibly well. Those are the teams that the Chargers are going to have to fight against. I'm going with the Chiefs on this one. I think they're going to win. They're going to improve to 4-0. The Chargers are going to improve to 2-2. And then when week 5 rolls around, hopefully the Chargers can have a nice bounce back win. But I'm going with the Chiefs. So next up, this is another very, very interesting game. We have the Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens. This is a Sunday night matchup. The Ravens barely edged out the Cowboys, and the Bills had another very, very impressive win against the Jacksonville Jaguars where they put up 47 points. Josh Allen was 23 of 30 for 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, 142.1 passer rating. Josh Allen has not thrown an interception yet so far this season. I think Josh Allen and Sam Darnold are the 2 front runners for MVP right now. Josh Allen has played so well, and the Bills are now 3-0, and they are playing. They're playing like we expected them to play, right? They will always have a chance when Josh Allen is their quarterback. As for the Ravens, they came into the Cowboys game 0-2. They really, really missed the boat dropping that game to the Raiders because it just looks like their schedule is just going to get even more difficult. There is a chance the Ravens win this game because, they are the Ravens. They are a good team. But they almost blew it against the Cowboys. They were up 28-6 in the 4th quarter. You can't let the Cowboys score 19 points in the 4th quarter and barely lose. You can't let that happen, guys. And this is something that has been a chronic problem for the Ravens for the past 3 years. They get up to a huge lead, they take their foot off the gas, and then they just let the other team get back into the game. Sometimes they win, most of the times they lose. But they did an incredible job on offense. Lamar was 12 of 15 for 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 139.4 passer rating. King Henry had his breakout game with the Ravens, 25 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6 yards a carry. I love Derrick Henry's game. I love seeing him do well. I watched this game, and it was a sight to behold. It was so, so cool. Incredible game. But this is going to be a game to watch. Between these two could face each other in the AFC Conference Championship, at this rate. But this is going to be a very interesting game to see where the Ravens are. If they beat the Bills at home and they get up to 2-2, then it's all right, the Ravens are going to be fine. They dropped the first 2 games, but they are going to be okay. But then again, if they lose to the Bills are a very good team. I think the Bills are coming off of too strong of a performance. I think that they are going to be the team to beat in the AFC, and I do think they are going to beat the Ravens at home. It's going to be a great game, though, and I think if the Ravens look good in defeat and they fight hard and they barely lose out on like a last-second field goal or by one possession, I wouldn't be too concerned with the Ravens. I just think they've had a very brutal schedule, and they've been losing to some very good teams and the Raiders. But they got to get it together then, though, because they'll be 1-3, and that's a tough hole. That's a tough hole to dig yourself out of. So I am going with the Buffalo Bills. So next up, we have the New England Patriots at the San Francisco 49ers. Both of these teams are coming off of bad losses, and the Patriots, what can you say about what the Patriots did? They only scored 3 points. Drake May came in at some point at the end of the game. He was 4 of 8 for 22 yards, 56 passer rating. I mean, you didn't really get to see much from him, but you did get to see a little bit. He didn't look lost. He didn't throw an interception, but he still only completed half of his passes. The 49ers, on the other hand, they really dropped the ball with that loss against the Rams. This is a get-right game for them. They're playing at home. This is a get-right game for them, and they need to win. The one takeaway that I do have from this game, though, with Brandon Ayuk not showing up, with Deebo Samuel out, with George Kittle out, what does Brock Purdy do? He throws for 22 of 30, 292 yards, and 3 touchdowns for 137.1 passer rating. The 49ers did not lose because of Brock Purdy. Say what you want about him being a game manager. That was not a game manager performance brought by Brock Purdy. And then Juwan Jennings had the game of his life. He was targeted 12 times, and he caught the ball 11 times for 175 yards and all 3 touchdowns that Brock Purdy threw. So their offense is still working, and Brock Purdy is still he's showing us that he is still not a game manager taking advantage of a bad situation, because he's dealing with a lot of injuries, and he's the only reason why they had a chance in that game against the Rams. So I think this is going to be a very solid get-right game for the 49ers. If they lose to the Patriots, then they're in big trouble. But they're going to win, move up to 2-2, and kind of reestablish their foothold on that division. Because there's another team coming up that is at the top of their division that's undefeated, and it's not the team that everyone expected to be undefeated. But I'm going with the 49ers on this one. So next up, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders. This is just kind of, I don't think either of these teams are really going to go anywhere this year. They're both coming off of some really embarrassing losses. Browns losing to the Giants, and then the Raiders losing to the Panthers. Deshaun Watson probably had his best game as a Brown. He was 21 of 37 for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 89.5 passer rating. And then Amari Cooper had 7 receptions for 86 yards, and he caught 2 touchdowns, both the touchdowns that Deshaun Watson threw. But it wasn't enough. The Giants scored 21 points, and the Browns lost. The Raiders, again, had a bad performance to the point that Gardner Minshew was benched and Aiden O'Connell came in. See, this is the thing about some of these spot starters like Gardner Minshew. They can play good for a couple games, but after a while, they get exposed a little bit, and the physical limitations that they have start being on full display, and then they start getting exposed, basically. So I'm going to be brief with this one. I think the Raiders are going to win this game, though. They're at home, and I think the Browns are just a bit of a helpless team right now. They are going to be helpless until they get rid of Deshaun Watson, I think. Like, they are going nowhere until Deshaun Watson gets out of their team and they get another quarterback in there. I think the Raiders are going to win. All right, so we have the last of our 4 o'clock slate. We have the Washington Commanders at the Arizona Cardinals. So, how about that game yesterday, as I record this? How about that game the Washington Commanders put on? They scored 38 points. I can't remember the last time they scored that many points to begin with. And this was the Jayden Daniels show. He had his coming out party on Monday night for the world to see. He was 21 of 23, 254 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 141.7 passer rating. He also rushed for a touchdown. He had more touchdowns than incompletions. Terry McLaurin, with his first big game of the year, 4 receptions, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. 2 big catches by Terry McLaurin, 1 for 55 yards to get them in the red zone, and 1 when there's only 10 personnel on the field. In the face of pressure, Jayden Daniels throws a dime to Terry McLaurin. He catches it perfectly in the end zone for a touchdown. That's the thing about Terry McLaurin, and that's why I will always stand by him as a phenomenal receiver. He has great hands, great reliable hands. If you ever see him catch the ball just fits so snugly in his hands. Like, watch it. When he catches that ball, he just grabs it, and it's just so snug. He is so reliable when it comes to making some of these catches. It's a thing of beauty. But the Commanders, they scored 38 points on Monday night. Incredible showing by the offense. Jayden Daniels, very, very encouraging performance. I don't want to get too overhyped because the last thing that I want to have happen is he gets injured. With a running quarterback, it's entirely possible that can't happen, but he showed a lot of talent, and he showed that he was the most pro-ready quarterback out of all of these rookies. But once again, we gave up 33 points. We can't keep doing that. Our offense played great. It was a great game by us, but our defense cannot keep giving up 30 points per game. It's the same problem that we had. It's the same problem that we had last year, where our defense just kept giving up points. There were a couple drives this game where we held them to field goals, and our offense was high-powered enough that we could stay ahead, so it kind of masked our problem. But our defense needs to get better. We're still not going to be a playoff team if we're giving up 30 points per game, right? Like, we are still a bottom 5 defense in this league. If we're a top 5 offense, we'll at least be entertaining to watch. But our defense cannot keep playing like this. It needs to get better. As for the Cardinals, they lost 20-13 against a very, very good Lions team. Kyler Murray was 21 of 34, 207 yards, a touchdown and interception, a 76.5 passer rating. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. had 5 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. The thing that concerns me is the same thing that Malik Neighbors did last week, and the same thing that Jamar Chase did last week. That Marvin Harrison Jr. is just going to go off against us. Because that's what's been happening the last couple of weeks, is their star receivers, like Mike Evans too. Literally, these star receivers have just been running roughshod against the Commanders' defense. I don't know why, but we can't contain these guys. And that's why this game is going to scare me a lot. It's on the road again, and the Cardinals are a tough team. They do not roll over and die. They may be 1-2, but they fight teams very hard. So this is not a gimme game for Washington. Not at all. If they do what they did against the Bengals, where their offense is high-powered enough that they can score points and stay in front of their meddling defense, then maybe they win another high-scoring game. But I wish it doesn't have to come to that. I want some better performance on defense from the Commanders. I do think the Commanders are going to win and improve to 3-1. Who would have thought we'd be saying that at the beginning of the year? But I do think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a very close game, and the defense needs to step up. Kyler Murray's a very mobile quarterback, so I'm really concerned about what he's going to do. I personally think he's going to carve up our defense. My only hope is that Jayden Daniels does the same against the Cardinals and carves up their defense more than Kyler carves up ours. But I'm going with my gut and my heart. My gut and my brain, and I'm going with Washington. So this is the first of 2 Monday night games, because it's another Monday night doubleheader. We have the Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams are very bad. The Titans are 0-3. Will Levis probably had his best game, but still, 26 of 34, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 92.8 passer rating. And then DeAndre Hopkins had 6 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins needs to get off of this team. Hey, listen, there's a spot on the Commanders if you want to come in, D-Hop. We would love to have you. I personally think he still has it. I don't think he's washed at all. I just think he's on a very bad team. And he's been on a bad team for the majority of his career. But, yeah, I don't know. I think the Titans are going to win this game because, frankly, the Dolphins haven't led all year. Their one win came from a walk-off field goal, and they don't have a quarterback anymore because I don't know when Tua is going to be playing next, and Skylar Thompson left with an injury too. So I don't know who is going to be playing quarterback for the Dolphins. So by default, I think the Titans are going to get their first win of the season because the Dolphins are a very, very injured, broken down team. So I am going with the Titans. So last but not least, we come across the Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-0, very surprisingly so. The Lions are 2-1, and they have pretty much they've been what we've expected them to be. Not every team that is, a Super Bowl contender is going to go 3-0, right? But they were 2-1, and they've been in all of their games very close. So I think that they are still one of the premier teams in the league. Just a couple stats for you. Jared Goff was 18 to 23, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, 113.6 passer rating. David Montgomery had 23 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs are still a good two-headed rushing attack. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown had 7 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. So Lions offense, once again, playing very well. They won a very solid game against the Cardinals, 20 to 13. And I think the more encouraging thing from that is the Cardinals scored only 3 points in the second half, which means that the Lions stayed ahead the entire time. The Cardinals didn't come back and almost win. The way the Lions are winning their games is in very convincing fashion, I would say. But the Seahawks have looked very good as well. Geno Smith was 26 to 34 for 289 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and an 86.5 passer rating. Well, he himself didn't have a very good game, but Zach Charbonnet did. He had 18 carries for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now that Kenneth Walker is injured, this is when these backups will step up. Zach Charbonnet sure did, and he did a very good job there. In this game, I think it could go either way. This is going to be a very big showcase game. If the Seahawks win and move up to 4-0, beating a good Lions team, then I think it's time for us to maybe take the Seahawks a bit more seriously. But unfortunately, it's at home. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Seahawks are going to experience their first loss of the season, and I think that they're going to lose. The Lions are going to improve to 3-0, and I think they're going to win. So that's the end of the predictions, but we are not done just yet. We're once again going to go over the point differentials of teams to see who is really dominating the most. So right here are AFC point differentials. You can see that the top 3 teams here are the Bills, Steelers, and Chargers. So you can see the Bills are really, really turning it on. They're 3-0, and they have a 64-point differential. If that just keeps growing, they are going to end up winning this. They have the highest point differential in the league. They're 3-0. I would say that in terms of a power ranking, the Bills are the number 1 team in the league right now. Steelers coming in at number 2. Again, they have allowed 26 points so far this year, and that is the fewest points allowed by any team. So this is what I'm saying. Like, they've allowed 26 points. And that's what they do. They play good defense. It's no wonder they're 3-0. Their offense may not be the best. They've only scored 51 points, which is pretty low, but as long as they score more points than their opponent, they're going to win. And then at the very bottom, the Jaguars have the lowest point differential in the AFC. Makes sense. They're 0-3. Like, that just sounds about right. And then as we move on to the NFC, the Saints still have the highest point differential at 59, plus 59. The Vikings are right behind them with plus 55 at 3-0. And then you can see the Seahawks are at plus 30. Now, incidentally, look at this here. This is why I was worried about the Cardinals. They have an 18-plus point differential, even though they're 1-2. That means that they've lost close games, and the game they did win, they destroyed them. That's why I'm really afraid. And then you look all the way down at Washington. They're 2-1, but they have a -9 point differential. Like, that is very, very telling, right? And that's why I'm very concerned about how Washington stacks up against the Cardinals just basically by the point differential. Something else I'm concerned about, points allowed. The Commanders have allowed 88 points this year, which is the 4th most of any team. The Panthers, Rams, and Cowboys have allowed more points, 95, 91, and 88 respectively. But that is not a good look for the Commanders. Like, they need to get that in check. Now, again, like I said, they have scored a lot of points, but again, their point differential is still in the negative. They've scored 79 points, which is the 4th highest in the NFC, which is all well and good again, but they need to get their defensive problems under control if they're going to be taken seriously, or else they're going to go on a slide. So I really hope you guys enjoy my analysis of point differentials, because you really get to see, like, what teams, regardless of record, what teams are really losing badly, which teams you can really expect to maybe turn it around later on in the season. Like, the Cardinals are a prime example of that. They have a positive point differential, even though they're 1-2, which means that they're losing close games. And it's only a matter of time before those close games go into their favor, maybe in the second half of the season. But those have been my Week 4 predictions. I know this was a bit of a long one. I had a lot to talk about. A lot is happening in the NFL. Things are not going the way anyone really expected, but that's the way I like it. So, happy Week 4. Hopefully your team wins, except for the Cardinals. Jayden Daniels is him. The Commanders are doing well. We're first place in our division. Happy days are here again. Hopefully they last. I will see you all later.